My child, listen in the stillness of your soul, for I am speaking from the depths. The movements unfolding in the world are not merely the result of history or politics. They are spiritual waves rising in a rhythm that the natural eye cannot perceive, but an awakened spirit will surely sense. I do not speak to bring confusion, but to call you out from the slumber that has wrapped my people like a thick fog. For time is no longer operating as it once did. Something is breaking open in the heavenly realms. Something that was unlocked from eternity past is now cascading into the temporal realm, carrying with it inevitable consequences. Have you heard the whisper in your heart? Even when no one else has spoken, have you sensed something unusual stirring the world? As if everything familiar is unraveling and the foundations once deemed unshakable are being turned over. You are not imagining it. That is the sound of a season ordained before the foundation of the world, striking its rhythm upon the earth. Not the footsteps of blind catastrophe, but the echo of my unfolding design plan written by the hand of power through the ages, inscribed with promises, sealed by the blood of the righteous. With cries of intercession and unwavering faithfulness. And you, yes, you, are living within that symphony. The place where you now stand is not merely a geographical location, but a spiritual position on the timeline of destiny. Every event you witness is not a disconnected occurrence, but a piece of a much greater, deeper, and holier tapestry than any human imagination could comprehend. And within this tapestry, you are not just an observer. You are part of the portrait, a purposeful brushstroke. I shaped you not to be swept away by this current, but to stand within it as a pillar. Though storms may rage and hearts may waver, you will remain steadfast through the one who called you out of darkness into the light. Do not let familiarity blind you. Do not think that because something has happened many times, it is no longer worth your attention. Some things, when repeated, divine affirmations, when spiritual tremors occur again and again, they are not coincidences. They are the heartbeat of heaven pounding loud to awaken the earth. I have spoken through thunder and whirlwind, but I also speak through whispers and small signs. My child, prepare your heart to listen, for not every ear can hear my voice. Only ears opened by longing and yieldedness will discern my rhythm within the chaos. The world will call this a time of crisis, but I call it a time of opportunity. When everything is shaken, only what belongs to me will remain. And if you belong to me, you will not be swept away by the tide of fear surging through humanity. I am allowing the whirlwind to blow to separate the weeds from the wheat, to divide truth from deception, to realign everything into its rightful place. It is in the moments that seem darkest that my light will shine brightest. And you, my beloved, are called to be one of those lights. You may wonder, why me? Why? Among millions of souls. Have I placed my hand upon you because I saw your heart when no one else did? I heard the faintest whisper in the midnight hours when you wept without sound. I noted every time you stood up, though frail, to choose what is right in a world that calls wrong right and right wrong. I do not seek the strong to use. I seek those who are tender to my voice. I do not need a hero. I need a heart that says, "Here I am, Lord, Every force of hell will try to convince you that you are not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough. But remember this, worthiness does not come from you, it comes from the one who chose you. It is my choosing that sets you apart. It is my anointing that gives you authority, and it is my presence that makes the enemy powerless against you. Hold fast to this truth, and do not let any voice cause you to doubt your place in me. I did not call you to fail. I called you to fulfill what I appointed from the beginning. This is the time for you to step out from behind the veil of disguise. Stop hiding. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. They will not come. Rise up in the midst of your current situation. For this is the true battlefield. Stand firm like a soldier who has been trained. Be watchful like a guard, keeping watch in the darkest hour of the night. For the trumpet is about to sound, not a trumpet of defeat, but a trumpet of summoning. Be prepared. Be ready. Keep your lamp burning. Fill your jar with oil, for this is no longer the hour of slumber, but the hour of action, and I am calling you not to a temporary role, but to an eternal destiny that was written before the foundations of the world. Every era has its pivotal moments, where the fate of nations is not determined by military power or political dominance, but by humanity's response to a word from heaven. My child, you are living in such a moment. This is no longer the time to count the hours by earthly calendars, but the time to examine your soul according to the rhythm of eternity. You have heard the call. You have felt the urgency. But what I am asking is this: how will you respond? Many have heard. Many were stirred. Many made vows. But then they returned to their busyness, their familiar comforts, and their fleeting pleasures. They pushed my voice into the background, where promises faded with the years, where passion cooled with each act of neglect. But I, the one who formed you, do not forget. My word does not fade with time. A word I have spoken will not return void until it has accomplished the purpose for which I sent it. You once heard me, and now I call again, not as an optional invitation, but as a loving command from one who understands the urgency more than you can fathom. My beloved, the tempests now rising are not merely to destroy, but to purify. The upheavals in the world are not just chaos, but the overturning of old systems to prepare the ground for a new order, not one forged by human hands, but established by me. You are living in a time when darkness seems to prevail, but in truth, it is only setting the stage for the light to break forth with greater brilliance. Nothing reveals light more clearly than surrounding darkness. And you, if you are in me, are not meant to be hidden. You are a lamp set on a stand, a flame that cannot be quenched, a lightning bolt destined to shatter the gloomy skies. Let me tell you a story not to entertain, but to awaken. There was a man who was called, in a generation full of wickedness, to do something that seemed absurd to the minds of men, to build a massive ark on dry land, when rain had never yet fallen. He was not a celebrated preacher, nor a man of great influence. He was simply someone who walked with me in a corrupt age. I spoke to him, and he believed. In that belief, he acted, and in his action, he endured ridicule, was deemed fanatical, and was cut off from the crowd. But it was he and his family who survived when the flood came. Do you see? True wisdom is not found in pleasing the majority, but in obeying me even when that obedience makes you misunderstood. In Noah's time, people carried on with life as usual, eating and drinking, marrying, buying and selling, laughing without care. They heard the warning, but they did not believe because they saw no concrete signs. Nothing unusual, until the door of the ark was shut, and it was I who shut it. Then the rain began. The deep fountains of the earth burst open. What once seemed unimaginable became reality, and the cries of those who mocked the day before echoed from outside, but it was too late. I tell you this story not to incite fear, but to emphasize a truth the human heart often forgets. When the time comes, I act swiftly and decisively. Grace is not an endless delay, but a limited window of time. Opportunities do not last forever. If you hesitate, you might miss the very moment appointed for you. And in this era you live in, every action carries eternal weight. Nothing is insignificant when you are walking the fine line between grace and judgment. Do not seek the approval of the world. It does not understand the language of heaven. Do not let your heart waver under the gaze of doubters. The chosen are always questioned. Those who walk by faith are often deemed foolish by those who live only by sight. But you were not called to blend in. You were called to be set apart. And that separation is not rooted in pride, but is a loving response to my holiness. When I told Noah to build the ark, he did not know when the waters would come, but he began. Each day, each plank, each nail he hammered by faith. As for you, what I'm asking you to build is not a wooden ark, but a spiritual refuge amid a world drowning in wickedness and chaos. Begin preparing now. Begin storing oil for your lamp. Establish a hedge of prayer around your family. Teach your children to recognize my voice. Sow my living word into their hearts, so that when the days of testing arrive, they will not tremble, but stand firm. Build with obedience, with reverence, with quiet sacrifice. For everything you do in faithfulness today will become shelter for tomorrow. I do not need you to understand everything. I only need you to begin. Just as Noah began, just as Abraham set out without knowing his destination, just as Moses stretched out his staff when the waters had not yet parted, just as Elijah prayed for rain while the sky was still clear, you too act. Raise your hand. Open your mouth. Take the step. Do not wait for clarity. Clarity comes after faith. What I seek in you is not perfection, but a heart willing to obey even before the results are visible. Do you know this? Silent obedience resounds the loudest in the realm of the Spirit. No need for drums or applause. Just a humble soul bowing low. A heart whispering, "Whatever you ask, I will do." And all of heaven turns its attention. I have chosen those the world overlooked. I have used nameless ones to carry out my greatest purposes. Because I do not seek reputation, I seek surrender. Not social status, but the depth of faith. My child, the era you are living in has entered a season of spiritual acceleration. Everything is shifting quietly, yet powerfully. What you see on the surface is only the tip of a current running deep beneath of destiny, of divine authority, of the great divide between light and darkness. Gone are the days when you could live neutral, straddling the line between the sacred and the profane. The time has come to choose a side. The time has come to draw clear lines. And I am calling you not through thunder but through the stirring within your spirit. Take your position, the one I have already prepared for you. Do not think that only those with titles are called. Do not imagine that only those who preach from pulpits or write books carry my voice. You are appointed. Whether you stand in a small kitchen, a quiet workshop, a hidden office, or the bustling midst of everyday life, wherever you are present, that place can become an altar if Your heart is wholly surrendered to me. Wherever the breath of faith is found, that place can become a point of divine encounter, and the words you speak, when saturated in my presence, can shift the destiny of an entire life. Do you remember what I said to Jeremiah? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. These words were not meant for him alone, but for all whom I have called in the generation to which they belong. You are not a mistake. You did not arrive on this earth by accident. Your presence in this moment of history is part of a design that was written before the stars were placed in the sky. Every trial you've endured, every tear you've shed, every delay that seemed meaningless, each of these has been gathered into my hand, like silent bricks laid to form a firm foundation. Pause and reflect on your journey. Weren't there moments when you thought you were lost, only for something unexpected to happen and help you move forward? Were there doors that shut inexplicably, only for you to later realize they saved you from dead ends? Were there dreams that seemed extinguished, only to birth new ones from the ashes, brighter, deeper, more refined? That was me. Not fate, not coincidence. I have been weaving the story of your life with threads that may appear tangled, but are in fact forming a tapestry full of purpose. Now, I don't just want you to know that you are chosen, I want you to live like someone who is chosen. Lay aside the excuses. Let go of the reasons for delay. Do not say, "When I'm ready, I will go." Readiness does not come when you feel adequate. It comes when you put your hand to the task. Even while still trembling, I am not asking you to walk in perfection. I only ask you to begin with a sincere heart. The trembling first steps will become steady strides. The stammering prayers will grow into declarations of authority. You only need to begin. I will take care of the rest. My child, you are not alone. A wave of the consecrated is rising across the earth. They are not loud, yet they are full of power. They do not argue, but their presence shakes the realms of darkness. They carry a light not born of electricity or fame, but of the secret place where they have knelt, wept, and waited in silence before me through the watches of the night. You are part of that wave, part of an army that wears no iron armor, but robes of humility, part of a people who seek no titles, yet know that their names are written in the book of life. If you could see into the spirit realm right now, you would witness angels moving swiftly at every spoken command. You would see gates flung open, chains breaking apart, and broken hearts being gently mended. And at the center of it all, you would see one with outstretched hands beckoning, waiting, long inganned, that one is me. I do not need you to fulfill my plans, but because of love, I long for you to partake in a glory that will never fade. The highest honor a person can ever experience is not what the world can offer, but the moment they realize they are living in alignment with the purpose heaven has assigned to them. So then, my beloved, be awakened, rise up, leave behind the delays, the doubts, and the voices that tried to chain you to the ordinary. Let your soul inhale the atmosphere of calling. Step out of the shadows of fear and into the land of faith. Not because you feel ready, but because the time has come. Not because you are worthy, but because I have chosen you. Not because you know the way, but because I will lead every step. If you will only say yes, the heavens will begin to move in your favor, and a new journey greater, deeper, more eternal will begin. Right in this very season, my beloved child, amid the sea of humanity drifting in confusion, I still see you. While the crowds chase after the call of fame and fortune, while mankind is intoxicated by the frantic pace of life to the point of losing their very souls, my eyes are searching for the souls that remain awakened. Not all are asleep, but most live as if nothing is changing. They eat, they dress, they work, they entertain themselves, but they no longer pause to ask what is truly taking place in the spiritual realm. They do not realize that the heavens are stirring, the gates are trembling, and heaven is calling each one of them by name. I do not condemn them. I see what they are up against. The distractions of this world are overwhelming, and the chaotic voices intertwine without rest. I see the burdens they carry, the fears they hide, the wounds they conceal beneath calm exteriors. But what grieves me the most is not their pain, but the fact that they suffer without knowing the place of healing. They hunger and thirst without knowing the source of life. They search, unaware that it is me whom they long for. And that is why I have chosen you, not to set you apart in pride or contempt for the world, but to send you into the midst of it as a gentle light, full of mercy. Being set apart is not a privilege to boast in, but a calling to serve. It is not meant to lift you above others, but to call you lower still, to love more deeply, to forgive more freely, and to live more distinctively. When I call you out from among the crowd, it is not to leave you alone, but to equip you so that you may be sent back into the world carrying what they do not yet have, true life, enduring peace, and unshakable truth. You are not called to flee the darkness, but to carry light into its midst and dismantle its power. Do not think that those who are lost are your enemies. They are your brothers and sisters, those I also love, those I also ransomed with my blood. You are not greater than they are, but your eyes have been opened ahead of theirs. The awakening you carry is a grace. Do not keep it to yourself. Do not let it breed pride. Let it stir you to intercede, to love, to serve. The souls around you are not looking for another sermon. They are searching for a life that reflects the light. They need to see in you what the world cannot manufacture: unconditional mercy, unquenchable hope, and a steadfastness that nothing can shake. My child, there are those in your family, your workplace, your community people waiting for something real. They are weary of pretense, tired of empty promises, and have lost faith in lofty ideals. Yet deep within them, a flicker still burns a fragile hope that somewhere, somehow, the real still exists, that peace may yet be found. You are the one I want to use to rekindle that flicker. Not through pressure, not through arguments, but by the very presence you carry, a presence born from having dwelt in me, walked with me, and lived for me. But this will not be easy, for when you are set apart, you will also be misunderstood. When you choose to live differently, you will be judged. When you refuse to laugh at what the world laughs at, when you no longer chase what they chase, they may call you strange. You may feel alone, may feel misplaced. And yet, know this: it is in that very set apartness that you are being forged, refined, and strengthened. What others see as loss, I call preparation. What they deem weakness, I use to bestow authority. No one can bring light into the darkness without first having walked through the dark. No one can give what is real without first having let go of what is false. My child, do not turn back. Do not seek compromise just to ease your loneliness. Do not try to dilute the light within you in order to blend into the darkness around you. What the world needs is not a dimmed version of itself, but a clear contrast that causes people to pause. A holy life is not meant to impress, but to create space for my presence to descend. When you choose to be set apart, you are not isolating yourself. You are preparing the way. When you choose truth, you are not opposing others. You are drawing them toward the source of life. And when you refuse to go with the crowd, it is not out of pride, but because your eyes have glimpsed a higher path. Being set apart does not make you rigid, it makes you tender, because you no longer live to please the world, but to delight the one who redeemed you. When you live with the awareness that my eyes are always upon you, you will no longer act to gain the approval of others, but in response to my abiding presence in every moment. You do not need to stand out to be seen. You only need to be faithful. You do not need to be flawless to be used. You only need to surrender. And then you will discover to be set apart is not a burden, it is a privilege. It is not something that robs you of freedom, but something that opens the door to true freedom, the kind that comes from knowing who you are in me and who I am in you. My child, do you know why I still speak of Noah, a man who lived thousands of years ago? Because his life was not just a historical event, it was a sign for this present hour. Noah did not live in the middle of a storm. He lived in what seemed like peaceful days. Before the flood came, the skies were still clear. People bought and sold, married and celebrated, as if nothing out of the ordinary were coming. But it was in that quiet and seemingly tranquil rhythm that a word was spoken, and only one man heard it. One solitary soul among a multitude, a call that no one else could understand but him. Noah did not receive confirmation from the community. There was no crowd in agreement, no applause, no encouragement. He saw no rain. Yet he began to build. He saw no signs. Yet he obeyed. His obedience was not based on feelings, but on steadfast faith in the one who had spoken. He did not rush to convince others. He simply nailed each plank, day after day. He did not argue with mockers or debate with the scornful. He knew that true persuasion comes not from words, but from outcomes. And one day, the outcome arrived when the first drops of rain fell, when the depths burst open, and when the earth no longer held the safety that mankind had assumed. My child, the times you live in are not so different. People have grown accustomed to pushing me aside. They eat and drink, chase after pleasure and gain. They construct systems, plans, and strategies, but I am not at the center. They are so busy that they no longer hear my voice. They mock what is sacred, disregard what is eternal, and laugh at those who choose to live differently. But what they do not realize is that time is counting down. The divine clock is ticking toward a destined hour. And in the midst of all this chaos, once again, I am searching for a Noah soul who does not need to see in order to believe, who does not need full understanding to obey, who does not need approval to take the next step. You might be the one, not because you are more talented than others, but because your heart remains tender, because you have heard my voice, because you are willing to silence the noise around you in order to heed the stirring within. Like Noah, You will be misunderstood. You will be seen as delusional. You will be judged as extreme. But do not worry. This has always been the case for those who are called before the time of unveiling. You were not called to be praised, but to prepare. And that preparation, if you remain faithful, will become a vessel of redemption not only for yourself but also for those around you, just as the ark became a place of refuge for an entire family in the midst of the great flood. Begin building the ark not with timber, but with obedience. Construct it piece by piece, through prayer, through forgiveness, through a humble spirit. Every time you choose to endure rather than retaliate, you are laying a plank. Every time you intercede for someone who hurt you, you are driving a nail. Every time you believe in my promise, while everything around you collapses, you are strengthening the spiritual framework. And one day, when all other doors have closed, the very ark you have built will be the place where many will come running to find shelter. Not because you are great, but because you obeyed when others ignored. Remember, I do not require you to finish the ark in one day. I only ask for your faithfulness day by day. Noah did not work according to emotion. He did not wait for a heavenly inspiration before he started building. He did not delay when he was not in the mood. He did not give up when he was mocked. He understood that a sacred mission cannot be dictated by fleeting emotions, and that very perseverance opened the door of salvation for his entire lineage. In the same way, you do not yet know the full impact of the small acts you are doing today. But I do, and I am measuring each faithful step with deep love. My beloved child, the greatest difference between Noah and his generation was not intelligence, it was response. And that, too, will be the greatest difference between you and the world today. People are still laughing, but the time will come when their laughter will fall silent. They are still building houses on sand. But one day, the winds will blow, the waters will rise, and when that happens, only what is built on the rock will remain standing. You are building on the rock. Every act of yours, if founded on my word, will never be in vain. When all around you is shaking, what you have built will become a symbol not of human wisdom, but of a heart that hears the voice of heaven and acts accordingly. My child, do not be troubled when no one understands you. Do not be surprised if you find yourself walking alone. The narrow path has always been less traveled, but it is on that narrow road that I am walking with you. It is in that lonely place that you will hear me more clearly. It is in that silence that your faith will grow strong. And when the rain of a new age begins to pour, not rain of water, but rain of upheaval, of testing, of judgment, you will not be shaken. Because you have prepared, you have believed, you have built a shelter, and I myself will shut the door of the ark for you and keep you in peace that surpasses all understanding. Now listen, my child, you were not called to live in fear, but neither are you permitted to live in ambiguity. The days ahead will not be easy. Undercurrents in the spiritual realm are rising, and darkness is trying to cover places that once radiated light. But this is not the time to tremble. This is the hour to stand firm. This is not the season to hide, but the moment to step forward as a living sign, a witness that there still exists a people who can discern, who still worship, and who know how to live in the world without belonging to it. And you, my child, are a part of that people. I did not lead you here just to survive. I brought you here to manifest, to be a testimony to a world desperately searching for something real amidst a sea of counterfeits. You do not need to strive to become something great. It is my presence within you that sets you apart, not through lofty words, but through the life that radiates from your posture, your gaze, your responses, and the peace you carry in the midst of chaos. That peace is not of this world, therefore. The world cannot take it away. And when they ask you how you're still standing in the midst of the storm, be ready to say, because I know the one to whom I belong. Don't strive to be useful in the way people define it. Be real. Be someone who has touched life itself and cannot keep silent about it. Don't let pressure rob you of the simplicity of faith. You don't have to know everything to live rightly. Don't wait until you feel strong to take action. It is in the hesitant steps that I give strength. It is in lack that I provide. It is in the empty places that I reveal my fullness. The ones I choose are not those who are self-assured, but those who are willing to trust. Look again at those I have used before. A Joseph, sold by his brothers, falsely accused, forgotten yet in the prison. I was shaping him into a vessel of influence to save an entire people. A Moses, once a murderer, a fugitive, plagued by self-doubt, yet he would go on to lead millions out of slavery. A Gideon, so afraid he hid in a winepress, yet when he heard my voice, he rose as a mighty warrior. I do not require perfection. I seek a willing heart, and in this hour, I am searching for such hearts, not to build fame for themselves, but to rebuild the walls of a collapsing generation. So do not retreat when you are misunderstood. Do not go silent when you feel alone. Those with a divine commission often go through seasons of silence before they step into public assignment. That is the time when I train the heart, engrave truth deeply, and cut away what is unnecessary. When you feel pushed aside, it might be the very moment I am drawing you into the secret place. And that secret place is not a prison, it is preparation. It is where I speak to you the words you'll need when the storm comes. Do not despise the season of solitude. Love it, for there I will teach you to listen, not just with your ears, but with your soul. You cannot hold on to the light while clinging to shadows. You cannot follow me while grasping the very things I am asking you to release. Consecration has a cost, but it is precisely in that surrender that you will find the satisfaction the world cannot offer. I never promised you a life free from pain, but I did promise that no pain would be wasted. No tear will fall unnoticed. No act of obedience will be in vain. All of it is being recorded not to tally up merit, but to prepare your reward. What you relinquish today will be exchanged for what is immeasurable in the days to come. Believe me, glory is not found in being accepted by all, but in being received by me. In my eyes, you will never be the minority as long as you continue walking in the light. Even if everyone turns their back on you, I never will. Even if every other voice goes silent, mine will still echo. I am still speaking in the quiet of the morning, in the stillness of the night, in the eyes of someone you love, in the whisper of wind that brushes past your window. The question is not whether I am speaking, but whether your heart is still open to hear. Keep your heart tender. Let it remain soft, easily moved, easily broken by the things that grieve me. Do not let disappointments harden your spirit. Do not let criticism close the door to compassion. Do not allow betrayal to rob you of your ability to love. You are not called to win every argument, but to be a living witness of love, of truth, and of life. Live with the intention that when others leave your presence, They feel as though they have drawn closer to me. And then, one day, when the great winds blow, when the heavens tremble, when all that is temporary is swept away like chaff, you will remain standing, not because of your strength, but because of the foundation you have built. And on that day, people will ask you, "How did you know to prepare? How are you able to stand firm?" And you will answer, "Because I heard the call, and I did not ignore it. Because I saw the ark that needed to be built, and I did not turn my face away. Because I knew the storm would come, so I chose to live like one who had been warned." Every shaking on earth reflects a movement in the heavenly realm. What your eyes see natural disasters, crises, chaoses, only the surface of a much deeper, invisible current, a current that only awakened souls can perceive. I am not the author of confusion, but I allow such things to happen in order to awaken a generation slipping into spiritual slumber. For there are hearts that have been sealed shut by too much pain, too many disappointments, too many warnings heard, but never truly received. I do not shake to destroy, but to awaken. I do not stir to punish, but to cause humanity to look again. You may ask, why the shaking? Why not choose a gentler way? But, my child, look at the human heart. When days pass in peace, it is easy to forget the giver of life. When everything flows smoothly, my voice is often no more than a gentle breeze that no one notices. But when the ground beneath trembles, when systems once thought unshakable collapse, when everything people leaned on suddenly vanishes like vapor, then, and only then, do hearts begin to search for an unshakable foundation. It is not that I desire to see people panic, but sometimes it is only in the midst of unrest that they learn to lift their eyes upward. Every generation has its defining moments. When the call from heaven resounds more urgently than usual, when the time of grace approaches its intersection with the time of revelation, something shifts in the spiritual atmosphere. There are slumbers that people enter into because of weariness, because of wounds, because of discouragement. But there are also slumbers born of apathy, of hardened hearts, of subtle pride that convinces them they are still walking with me, even though they have long since drifted away. I do not want them to sleep through the night. I want them to awaken before the dawn breaks, before the trumpet sounds, before the door closes. You can see this if you observe, not just with your eyes, but with your spirit. You will perceive the heavens releasing a sound not in volume, but in frequency, a frequency that only those who are truly listening will recognize. People are beginning to awaken. Souls that once slept are now sensing that something is not right. Those who once mocked the spiritual are now beginning to ask questions. Those who were once indifferent now feel a stirring in their hearts. This is not the product of psychology. This is my voice calling, echoing through the clouds, penetrating hearts, awakening the divine life that has long been buried. You have felt it too, haven't you? Those sleepless nights without knowing why. Those mornings when you awaken with a weight on your soul that no one else can understand. Those brief pauses in the midst of your busy days when, despite all the fullness around you, your heart feels empty. That was me. That was my invitation calling you back to where it all began. To the place where faith is not obscured by the pressure to perform, where love is not tainted by condition or comparison, where my presence is not diluted by the noise of the world. I am calling you not just back to your assignment, but first and foremost, back to me. My child, I do not desire your obedience to be a mere obligation, but a response from the heart. I do not seek compliance born of fear, but a return inspired by love. You don't need to fix every mistake before coming to me. Come with your confusion. Come with your unreadiness. Come with all the questions, fears, and wounds you don't know how to handle. I do not love you more when you are strong, nor do I love you less when you are weak. My love does not rise and fall according to your performance. It remains constant, eternal, unchanging, and deeper than you could ever imagine. Look back on the seasons that have passed. Perhaps you see waste. Perhaps you carry regret. Perhaps you think you've gone too far. But I tell you this, there is no place too distant for me to reach, no wound too deep for me to heal, no failure too great for me to turn into a foundation of restoration. The only thing I need is a heart that dares to whisper, I still need you, and when you open your heart, I will come in not as a guest, but as a father who has long awaited your return. Know this, every shaking is not meant to throw you into confusion, but to draw you closer to me. Just like a father calls his child home when they've wandered too far into the yard before the night falls, so is my voice calling now. It is not the voice of reprimand, but of concern, a reminder that you belong somewhere safer. And now, as the skies of this world begin to darken, I am calling not to scold you, but to shelter you, not to accuse, but to mend, not to condemn, but to wrap you in my arms. Sometimes, the call to step forward doesn't come through an open door, but through one that closes. I do not always reveal my will through blinding light or unmistakable signs. Many times, I guide you through silence, through refusals, through paths that no longer feel the same. I know it unsettles you. I know you prefer certainty, the feeling of knowing where you're headed. But my child, I am not leading you according to the map you're familiar with. I lead according to the blueprint I drew up for you before the foundation of the world. There are times I close a door not because you failed, but because you've completed that chapter. I allowed that relationship to fall apart not because I delight in heartbreak, but because you were entangled in something that had ceased to bear fruit. I allowed you to enter the stillness not to abandon you, but so you might finally hear the voice you had unknowingly tuned out. Some redirections are not pleasant, but they are necessary, because I love you too much to let you remain where it is safe. When my glory for you lies beyond the threshold of surrender, you were not made to live in comfort zones. True obedience is rarely comfortable. It requires you to step away from what is familiar and into the unknown. It demands that you release your grip on control and trust that I still hold the wheel. It calls you to lay down your personal dreams and receive higher purposes, the things you may not understand at first, but will later see why I chose you for them. Every step of faith is not a step into darkness, but into a light that only you can see when your eyes are no longer veiled by fear. I know you are afraid. I know you've been wounded before. I have seen the times you trusted and were betrayed, the times you placed your hopes only to be disappointed. But my child, I am not like man. I do not break promises. I do not forget my word. If I have spoken, I will fulfill it. Yet in the midst of your waiting, I may call you to step forward even before you see how every piece fits together. That is where faith becomes real. That is where maturity begins. Not when you have all the answers, but when you choose to believe that I am the answer. Look at Abraham. When I called him out from his homeland, I did not tell him exactly where he was going. There was only a call, a promise, and a command. Go. No map. No detailed plan. No guarantee. Except for my presence. And he went. It wasn't an impulsive act, but obedience born from true faith. And because of that obedience, he became the father of many nations. What I promised did not only come to him, but also to generations after him. The obedience of one can become the inheritance of many. In the same way, your obedience is not only about you. There are people who will step into life because you chose to step out. There are children who will grow up in the light because you turned from darkness. There are families that will be saved because you responded to the call. And even though you do not yet see it all, know this: every time you say yes to me, heaven takes note, and you yourself will be the first to experience profound transformation, peace that surpasses all understanding, and joy that does not depend on circumstances. But to move forward, you must leave behind the old. No one can enter the next chapter while clinging to the last. You cannot carry old baggage and expect to go further. I am calling you to let go, to take away, but to place something better into your hands. My child, that better thing can only be received with empty hands. I know letting go isn't easy, but what is more dangerous is to hold on to what I have already asked you to release. Don't lose an eternal destiny for the sake of something temporary, and you do not have to go alone. I will go before you to make a way. I will walk beside you to strengthen you. I will come behind you to protect you. I will be above you to cover you, and I will dwell within you, reminding you when you feel weak, lost, or shaken. Those who obey me are never abandoned. They may appear alone in the eyes of the world, but they are wrapped in a presence that never departs. When they fall, I lift them up. When they tremble, I become their strength. When they are silent, I still whisper. And when they hurt, I hold every tear. So step out. Don't wait for everything to be perfect before you move. Don't seek certainty from the world when I alone am the rock that cannot be shaken. Don't hesitate because of others' voices when mine has already spoken clearly. Remember the times I protected you, provided for you, healed you, and forgave you. If I was faithful in the past, I will be faithful in the future. There is nothing you give up for my sake that will not be returned to you many times over in this life and in the life to come. My child, not every shaking is a sign of destruction. Some tremblings come to strip away the old, to reveal the pure, and to lead you into a completely new spiritual season. It is a shaking not to break you, but to remove what no longer serves you. Not to induce fear, but to awaken the faith that has slept too long. I do not delight in your pain, but I love you too much to let you live in false peace in the illusion of safety that stunts true growth. The shaking is my invitation. Come closer, go deeper, and step into a place where temporary things can no longer stand. There are things you once clung to, plans, relationships, roles that were once blessings, but have now become hindrances, not because they are evil, but because their season has passed. When the season shifts, what once nourished you can now suffocate your soul. What once brought joy can now feel like a burden. And when I begin to shake things, it is not because I am angry, but because I am moving you away from what is holding you back. The shaking reveals what no longer fits. It brings everything into the light. so you may choose again, decide again, and redefine what is true, what is worth keeping, and what needs to be released. Do not fear when things seem to fall apart. Brokenness is not the end, it is the beginning of rebuilding. A structure cannot be renewed if the foundation is decayed. A new vessel cannot be filled with new wine while clinging to the dregs of the old. I cannot lead you into a new spiritual season if you continue to carry an old mindset, old systems, and old habits. When I stir the ground beneath you, it is not to strip you of good things, but to make room for something better. What I have prepared for you is greater than anything you've experienced. But to step into it, you must be willing to be refined. Refinement does not come through theory. It comes through fire, not a fire that destroys, but one that purifies. Fire reveals what is truly there. Gold is not afraid of the fire. Only the impurities are burned away. And when I allow you to pass through the flames, it is not because I have withdrawn, but because I am closer than ever before. It is in the furnace of affliction that I stand with you. Just as I appeared with the 3 friends of Daniel in the fiery furnace that was heated 7 times hotter, so too, when everything feels like it's closing in, when your endurance seems to have reached its limit, when you have no place else to turn, that is the very moment when I am most clearly beside you. I know you are tired. I see that you are weary from the spiritual battles. But do not confuse exhaustion with retreat. You may be weak, but that does not diminish your worth in my eyes. I do not seek warriors who never fall. I seek hearts that, even when they stumble, choose to rise again. You do not have to pretend to be strong. Just breathe. Cry if you must, but do not retreat. Let the fire refine you. Let the winds of life blow away the dust that has clouded your vision. Let the cracks in your soul become the very places where my light shines in. My beloved, you once asked me to give you a heart like mine, and now I am answering that prayer not through calm days, but through seasons where your heart is tested, your will is stretched, and your faith is measured, not so that I may know who you are, but so that you may see where you truly stand. When everything is easy, anyone can say, I believe. But when the ground beneath you shakes, when promises have yet to be fulfilled, when the night is thick with darkness, that is when you choose to believe. Not because of a feeling, but because you know I do not change. My child, I am shaking what is unstable, so that what cannot be shaken will remain. This is grace, not condemnation. Because if I did not shake, you would continue to build upon cracked foundations. If I did not touch, you would keep living with a form that lacks true power. I love you too much to let you drift without a word. The shaking is my call. Return. Rebuild. Begin again. And when you respond, something new begins to take shape. A season unlike those before. A season where you no longer rely on your own strength, but rest fully in me. I say it again, there will be moments when you feel nothing at all. But remember, do not stop. Do not let the dryness deceive you into forgetting that the harvest is coming. Do not let the dark days make you question the light you once saw. Do not allow strange voices to drown out the word that once resounded in your heart. Keep walking, even if your steps are slow. Keep praying, even when you feel no stirring. Keep your heart pure, even when others around you choose another path. For one day, the refining will be complete. And when that day comes, You will not emerge as the same person, but as a warrior who carries the fragrance of holiness, the brilliance of truth, and the authority of one who has walked through fire and was not consumed. You will not be perfect, but you will be established. The challenges will not disappear, but you will know with certainty that your feet are planted on the rock, and that changes everything. For in a world still trembling, you will be one who cannot be shaken, not because you are better, but because you have been refined by my own hand. Yet, you cannot enter the coming days empty-handed. This is no longer a time for shallow spirituality, nor is it a season for wavering souls. The enemy is no longer hiding. It has shown its face and stepped onto the battlefield in broad daylight with deception, confusion, and fear. It sows doubt in the mind, injects panic into the emotions, and steadily dismantles the foundation of faith. But I have not left you exposed in the storm. I have equipped you with weapons, not weapons of the flesh, but powerful tools empowered by my Spirito. Demolish strongholds, destroy lies, and bring down the invisible forces. Every weapon I have given carries heavenly weight. They are not ornamental. They are for war. You cannot treat faith as a beautiful concept alone. You must wear it like a shield. When the arrows of doubt come flying, faith is your first line of defense. Faith is not a pleasant feeling. It is a resolve to stand firm even when everything around you screams retreat. When you raise the shield of faith, you are not only blocking the enemy's strike, you are reminding yourself that you do not belong to this world, and you are protected by the one greater than all. I have also given you a helmet not to conceal, but to protect. Your mind is the first battlefield. If you do not guard your thoughts, even a heart burning with passion will fall prey to creeping doubt. Every thought must be made captive to obedience to me. Do not let the voices of the world shape your perspective on life. Put on the helmet of salvation, constant reminder that you have been purchased, redeemed, and rescued from the dominion of darkness. When the enemy comes to accuse, remind it that you no longer stand under an old verdict, but in the grace that now covers you. The breastplate I provide is not forged from metal, but woven from righteousness, not a righteousness of your own making, but one bestowed through my perfect sacrifice. When you clothe yourself in this armor, the enemy can no longer use your past mistakes to defeat you. It may echo what you once did, but it cannot touch who you are becoming. This armor doesn't merely protect, it reminds you that you are forgiven, restored, and able to stand firm, not by your own merit, but by my unwavering love. Around your waist is a belt not for adornment, but for truth. In a world drunk on falsehoods, truth becomes the clear dividing line between light and darkness. You cannot grip a sword unless your hands are grounded in truth. It is the foundation upon which all else stands. If you let go of truth, you will be swept away by every wind of doctrine, every passing philosophy, every hollow promise. Truth is what I have spoken, unchanging, eternal, and it is the truth that will set you free, not necessarily from trouble, but from the invisible chains of deception upon your feet. I have placed shoes not for fleeing, but for advancing, shoes of readiness, of zeal, of the proclamation of the gospel of peace. Every step you take, if it carries my message, becomes a step that breaks open the ground. You are not called to remain stationary, but to move forward in authority. Let every place you enter bear the mark of peace, not because of your own skill, but because of my presence within you. Do not fear stepping into the darkness. If I am the one who sends you, then every footprint becomes a spiritual invasion into the territory of death, to reclaim what belongs to me. But you are not merely on the defense. In your hand, I have placed a sword not of steel, but of my word, not merely to be read, but to be wielded. My word is not just a religious book, it is a living weapon, sharper than any double-edged sword. It pierces to the marrow, to the soul, to every hidden thought within the heart of man. When you declare my word, you are not simply speaking, you are establishing a new reality. When you stand upon my word, no force can push you back. Learn my word. Declare my word. Live in my word, for the enemy does not fear loud cries, but he trembles before those who know how to rightly wield the sword of truth. My child, you are not alone on this battlefield, but you must put on the whole armor. You cannot choose one piece and leave another behind. You cannot live by faith without truth. You cannot preach peace without wearing the breastplate of righteousness. You cannot read my word without guarding your mind. All of it is essential. And more than all these, I myself am your covering. I am your refuge, the shadow of the Almighty, the unshakable stronghold. You fight not because you are fearless, but because you are surrounded by a presence that never fails. My beloved, not everyone hears the sound of the trumpet, but the watchman does not have the right to remain silent. In every generation, I have raised up those who refuse to live blindly in the midst of darkness, those who do not chase after the applause of crowds, nor are swayed by the illusion of comfort. They dwell among the people, but are not dissolved by them. They see what others ignore, and hear what the majority have chosen not to hear. They are watchmen not because they are superior, but because they have been stationed upon the wall to observe, to warn, to sound the alarm when danger draws near. My child, I am calling you into that position, not to judge, but to awaken, not to stir up fear, but to prevent destruction. When I place a person on the wall, it is not a title, it is a responsibility. When the enemy approaches, the watchmen must not sleep. When darkness spreads, they must not turn their back. When disaster hovers at the horizon, they must not be silent. If they choose silence, the blood will be on their hands. But if they sound the warning, and the people do not listen, then they will be blameless, for they have fulfilled their duty. Have you ever felt the weight of a burden you could not name? Have there been nights you could not sleep, not because of personal pain, but because you sensed something drawing near? Have you stood among crowds and suddenly felt your heart ache for their lostness? Have you seen the smile on another's face? But deep within you knew it was merely a mask for a soul crying out for rescue. That is the mark of a watchman. That is the bell from heaven ringing within you, urging you to speak, even when no one has asked, because you do not need a commission from man. When you have already received an assignment from the Lord of the wall, the watchman is not chosen to be the center, but to remain on the outskirts to observe from a different place, one that is higher and further. It is a lonely place, yet also a place of clarity, and it is there that you must learn to discern my voice amid countless echoes. I did not call you so others would obey your words, but so you would speak what I have placed in your heart regardless of how people respond. Your faithfulness is not measured by how many listen, but by your obedience. You may be mocked. You may be doubted. But if you are truly sent by me, then no word from your mouth will return void. The trumpet you blow is not to instill fear, but to awaken. It is a call of mercy, a reminder that the door of grace remains open, but is slowly closing. There are souls standing on the edge of destruction, not because they are defiant, but because no one has ever warned them. No one ever told them seriously that darkness is not a playground. No one ever showed them that the easy road does not often lead to life. And that is why I need you not to scream in their faces, but to love them enough to speak, even if it means being misunderstood. My child, do not wait for others to validate the role you carry. Do not look to people for affirmation of what I've entrusted to you. Affirmation comes from me, not from man. If I have placed you on the wall, do not climb down just because someone disapproves of what you see. Do not let criticism discourage you. Do not abandon the trumpet because the crowd is indifferent. If I have breathed my breath into you, you cannot stay silent. If your eyes have been opened, you cannot pretend to be blind. If your ears have heard, you cannot pretend to be deaf. When a watchman speaks, the people may not listen right away. But one day, when the wind shifts, when the dark clouds gather, when what was once dismissed becomes reality, they will remember your words. And those words, if spoken in obedience, in love, and in holy reverence, will become seeds. They may not sprout immediately, but they will not die. They will remain buried in the soil, and in due season, they will rise again, reminding people that someone had spoken, that someone had warned, that someone had loved them enough not to stay silent. The watchman does not only speak with words, but with life. The way you live will validate what you declare, not the grandeur on the outside, but the depth in the secret place, the nights you knelt in intercession, the tears no one saw, the times you turned away from compromise to keep your heart pure. All of these are silent trumpets resounding in heaven. And I, the one who hears the groaning of the earth, also hear every word you utter, even when no one else does. I remember every single one, and in due time, I will bring them to fulfillment. Therefore, my child, stay on the wall. Do not come down, even if you feel lonely, uncertain, or weary. Keep watch. Keep warning. Keep praying, not because you are strong enough, but because I am the one who placed you there. And as long as you remain at your post, an entire spiritual territory will be protected from the encroaching darkness. There are battles that cannot be won through argument, but only through a living testimony. There are shadows that do not vanish at the sound of shouting, but retreat when confronted with a soul that has endured and remained steadfast. You do not need to know every answer. You only need to speak what you have seen, heard, and touched. A testimony is not merely a story of the past. It is a present weapon sharper than a sword because it bears the imprint of a God who is still alive and still moving today. When you open your mouth to speak of what I have done in your life, not only are others reminded, but you too are strengthened. The enemy fears those who do not retreat. He is not intimidated by large gatherings or flashy programs, but he trembles before a humble soul who knows they have been redeemed, and who dares to live and speak the truth in a world that loves lies. When you testify, you are not just recounting a memory. You are declaring, my faithfulness. You are making a way for me to move again. For I am the one who never abandons what I have begun. If I once delivered you, then your testimony becomes the doorway through which others may also step into that same deliverance. There are wounds within your heart that once silenced your voice. You believed that you had to be completely healed before you could speak. But the truth is, it is in the very places where you once bled, where you once broke, that the light now shines most powerfully. You don't need to wait until everything is perfect. What matters is being faithful with what you've been given. Speak what you know, even if it seems small. Share what you've lived through, even if it feels insignificant. In my hands, even the smallest things can become a guiding light for those lost in the fog of this world. Testimony is not the product of confidence, but the result of a real encounter with me. When you say, I was lost, but now I am found, all of hell trembles not because the words are eloquent, but because they confirm a defeat that has been overturned. When you declare, I once doubted, but now I believe, the invisible walls surrounding another person's mind might begin to crack. When you say, I have forgiven the one who hurt me, the chains of bitterness in someone else may break. Your testimony is not merely your own. It is a message born from the very power of resurrection. But testimony must walk with faith, not blind faith, but rooted faith, not the kind that depends on fleeting emotions, but the kind refined through the fire of trials. Faith is what lifts you up again after you've fallen many times. It's what keeps you praying, even when no answer comes. It's what pushes you forward, even when nothing is visible ahead. Faith is not illusion, it is the certainty placed in the one who never changes. When you declare what I have spoken not because you see it, but because you know I am faithful, that is faith. When testimony and faith go hand in hand, they become wings that carry breakthrough. Sometimes it only takes one person daring to share how they were delivered, and an entire family is transformed. At times, a single, simple word from a sincere heart can awaken a soul that has slept for years. Testimony doesn't need to be complex. It only needs to be true. It only needs to be spoken with reverence and conviction. And faith, even as small as a mustard seed, is enough to move mountains when placed in the right hands. Don't wait until you feel strong to step out. It is in your weakness that my power is revealed. When you testify, I move. When you proclaim in faith, I confirm it with signs and wonders. Never underestimate simplicity. What you see as small may be sparking a massive shift in the spiritual realm. Every word you release, if led by the Holy Spiritus, an arrow launched at the heart of the enemy. Not because your voice is loud, but because the truth you speak echoes in heaven. The enemy fears light, and a true testimony is light that cannot be hidden. It exposes darkness, avec déception, and leads others to the truth. Perhaps you've never stood behind a pulpit. Perhaps you have no formal theological training. But if you have ever encountered my mercy, you have something to say. If you have ever been healed, ever been forgiven, ever risen from the pit of failure, you carry within you a weapon that cannot be fabricated, a life transformed by grace. That is something no one can refute. People may argue theories, but they cannot deny life. And you are living proof. So then, do not remain silent. Open your mouth. Speak of what I have done. Proclaim what I am doing. and believe in what I will continue to do. The words you think are small may be the first ray of light breaking through someone's long night. The faith you think is weak may be the very rope pulling a soul out of the abyss. Live. Speak. Believe he is a warrior not armed with iron, but with testimony and faith that have been tried in the fire. And when you walk in this way, no force can stand against you and remain unshaken. My dear child, there are stories not merely meant to be remembered, but to awaken. There are pages in Scripture that have not closed with the past, but are unfolding within the present. Every nation, every city, every generation leaves behind a trace either as a mirror for warning or as an echo resounding through the heart of humanity. Do not repeat the same fall. I did not include these accounts in the Holy Scriptures just to recount history, but to illuminate the path for today. And now, child, this is the time for you to return to those pages not with a curious gaze, but with a humble heart to listen to the voice that still echoes through them. Remember Sodom, a flourishing city, prosperous and teeming with activity and self-satisfaction. But prosperity does not equate to righteousness. Beneath its dazzling appearance lay moral decay, unrepentant, and hearts so hardened that their conscience no longer trembled before evil. The cry from that city rose up to heaven, not a song of praise, but a groan, the voice of the innocent crushed underfoot, the cry of justice distorted, the sound of depravity dressed in the garments of civilization. And I heard, I always hear, I did not rain down fire without warning. Before judgment arrives, I always send messengers. I sent angels. I gave them warnings. I offered them a chance. But no one believed. When Lot spoke, they thought he was jesting. Even his loved ones hesitated. They didn't take the warning seriously, because they were still immersed in what they called normal. And then, as dawn broke, fire fell from heaven. The city was consumed not by blind fury, but by a righteousness that cannot be denied. Yet from the ashes, one family was saved not because they were flawless, but because they heard and fled. Then remember Lot's wife. She came out of the city, but her heart turned back. One glance, a flicker of regret, a moment of hesitation, and she became a pillar of salt. This does not speak of excessive severity on my part, but reveals this truth. When I say do not look back, it is not a suggestion, but a safeguard. There are things that, if you continue to long for, will pull you back into the very spiral I am trying to rescue you from. There are relationships, habits, systems. If you are not decisive, you will never truly step into what is new. Lot's wife is a reminder. Escaping is one thing. Letting go is another. Now look at Egypt, a mighty empire, a superpower feared by all, yet a place steeped in pride, idolatry, and cruelty. My people lived there oppressed, tormented, and their cries pierced the clouds. I heard, and when I hear, I move. I did not use armies to overthrow a kingdom. I sent a Manon who had once taken a life, who had run away, who thought himself useless. I called Moses, and through one man's hands, I shook a throne not with swords or spears, but with obedience. The 10 plagues did not come as theatrical displays, but as declarations spoken directly into the heart of Egypt's arrogance. Each plague struck at a god they revered. Each wonder was an invitation to repent. But Pharaoh hardened his heart not because he did not see my power, but because he refused to yield. The cost was life. Every firstborn in the land perished, not because I lacked mercy, but because pride would not bow to truth. But those who heeded my instruction, who smeared the blood of the Lamb on their doorposts, they were shielded. On the very night of judgment, that blood spoke on their behalf, and the angel of death passed over them. Now turn to Nineveh. A very different story. That city too was steeped in sin. But when I sent Jonah, and he proclaimed the warning, they believed. From the king to the people, from the powerful to the humble, they repented in sackcloth and lowered themselves before me. And something miraculous happened. I withheld the punishment, not because I changed my mind, but because they changed their hearts. True repentance always stirs heaven. I am ever ready to show mercy, but the condition is repentance that is genuine, not superficial, born of a softened heart. No city is ever too far gone to be saved, so long as they are willing to turn back. My child, those stories are not merely historical records. They are mirrors held up to this present time. Sodom may well be the cities of today, where truth is distorted and the righteous are silenced. Egypt could represent the systems that imprison humanity in materialism and power. Nineveh might symbolize places on the brink of shaking, yet still full of hope if someone dares to speak. And I am searching for such ones, not those who stand on high to criticize, but those who will stand between heaven and earth to intercede, to warn, to proclaim, and to earnestly plead, return while there is still time. Grace is not a vague idea used merely to soothe the conscience. Grace is a living reality, an outstretched arm over the abyss, an emergency exit that remains open even when every other door seems shut. Do you not know? Even when darkness thickens, even when every sign points to imminent judgment, I am still whispering into the hearts of those willing to listen. Turn back, for I am still here. No one has gone too far to return. No failure is too great for me to forgive. But the requirement has always been sincerity, repentance, not spoken with the lips only, but birthed from the soul. Many believe that repentance is weakness. They fear admitting they were wrong, fear confessing they've strayed, that they've built their house on sand instead of rock. But my child, it is when you bow low that your vision begins to clear. It is when you are broken that I begin to rebuild you with materials no force can destroy. Repentance does not disgrace you. It restores you to your rightful place, the place of a wandering child returning into the arms of the Father. And when you return, I do not interrogate you. I embrace you. I restore you. I bring you back to the position you once forfeited. Those who never repent are those who have sealed their hearts against the truth. They may build castles with reputation, knowledge, or achievements, but inside remains a soul parched gnawed away by wounds they refuse to acknowledge. Meanwhile, a soul that repents, though poor and lowly in the eyes of the world, shines brilliantly before heaven. For heaven does not see as man sees. It does not look at appearance or status, but listens to the rhythm of the heart. Is it still tender? Does it still weep over its former wrongs? Does it still grieve over having hurt me? My child, I do not seek perfection. I seek surrender. I do not demand that you never stumble, but I long for those who will rise and say, I was wrong. Please lead me home. Words like this even whispered reach the highest realms. They may go unheard by men, but they cause angels to rejoice. And I, as your Father, will never reject a truly repentant soul, even if that soul once resisted me, once cursed me, once turned away. If they return today, they will not find condemnation, but a celebration, not criticism, but open arms. Grace does not mean overlooking sin. It is not an excuse to continue in wrong. Grace is the power to change. It is the gift you do not deserve but are given, to begin again not by your own strength, but by the power that comes from me. You cannot save yourself, but when you place yourself in my hands, I will do what no effort of yours can achieve. I will transform you from the inside out. I will turn a heart of stone into a heart of flesh. I will turn coldness into a fire of love. I will turn a shattered life into a living testimony of my great grace. Do not wait until the door slams shut. Do not wait until my voice can no longer be heard. For though grace is vast, the time for repentance does not last forever. Just as in the days of Noah, when the door of the ark was closed, those on the outside no longer had the chance to enter. Just like Lot's wife, just one backward glance was enough to forfeit her destiny. Repent today, while there is still time. Turn around while your heart is still soft enough to sense my sigh. Because once you've grown accustomed to the darkness, you will no longer know where you are. You do not need to wait until life collapses to realize you need me. You do not have to fall into the depths to understand that your hands are longing to be held. You can turn back now, even if you've only just begun to drift, even if it's only unspoken thoughts, even if it's an invisible distance in your spirit. Return while you still feel the absence of my presence, because that very ache is the sign that your heart is still alive. Do not numb it. Do not let it harden. I know every layer of your thoughts. I see even the things you hide from others. I know the things you're too ashamed to name. And yet, my beloved, I have not turned away. I am still waiting, still knocking, still whispering, let me in, let me heal, not to condemn, but to wipe away your tears, not to expose, but to restore, not to make you feel small, but to remind you that you are always loved, despite everything. And when you repent, life will rush back in. The air will feel lighter. The burdens will fall away. Your eyes will regain clarity. You will see the path you thought was lost. And the most miraculous thing of all, I will walk with you, step by step, no longer a lonely effort, but a sacred companionship. From the darkness, you will be led into light. From the place of breaking, you will stand again, not because you are strong, but because grace is enough for you, always enough, my precious one. In the midst of barren lands where no one is looking, where there are no stages, no lights, no applause, a voice rises. It does not come from palaces, nor does it emanate from places of power. It is a voice from the wilderness, from solitude, from where wind and dust dwell, where one is forced to face themselves and face God. Prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight paths for him. That voice did not only echo in the days of John the Baptist, it has echoed through every generation. And today, it is echoing in your soul. Can you hear it? Amidst all the noise of the world, the news, the arguments, the cravings and fear scan, you hear that call. It does not shout into your ears, but it stirs the deepest places of your being. It does not invite excitement, but demands awakening, because the Holy One is coming, not to be applauded, but to judge and to restore, not to wear a crown of fame, but to seek the hearts that have cleared a way for him to enter. The wilderness is where the unnecessary falls away. It is where the naked soul confronts a light that cannot be faked. It is where no makeup remains. No more masks only, the truth remains. Where are you? Who have you become? Are you truly ready? The voice in the wilderness is not meant to entertain. It does not soothe the emotions. It shakes. It awakens the ground that has long slumbered. It shatters complacency, breaks the ice in the spirit, and calls you out from spiritual paralysis. My child, preparing the way is not merely about removing external obstacles. It is an inward journey. It is the act of casting down arguments that rise against the truth. It is the decision to lay aside bitterness, envy, and pride, those things that have clouded your spirit and dried up the wells of living water within you. To prepare the way is to cleanse your heart, just as one would ready a room for an honored guest, not to leave him standing at the door, but to invite him deep within, into the places you've long kept locked away from others. The Holy One does not come for a casual visit. He comes to reign. Remember, John was not someone widely accepted. He did not wear fine clothing. He did not dwell in palaces. Yet he was the voice crying out, and you, too, are called to be like that, not one who chases applause, but a voice of awakening. One does not need to be perfect to speak truth. One does not need worldly approval to proclaim what is right. All that is needed is to be sent. All that is needed is a heart that burns with enough fire, that is tender enough and courageous enough not to remain silent when heaven is stirring. A voice in the wilderness does not need a crowd. It needs faithfulness. I am searching for such ones, not to make them stand out in the eyes of the world, but to make them known in the courts of heaven. Those who dare to live differently, who dare to speak righteousness in a world that prefers compromise. Those who do not need to be understood, but need to be true. Those who, like John, are willing to be misunderstood, cast aside, and yet still point toward the one who is to come. Behold, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world. That voice must never fall silent. To become the voice, you must first learn to be silent to the world so you can hear me clearly. You must be formed in the wilderness. You must accept seasons where no one remembers your name. No one praises your work. No one understands the fire burning in your bones. For only in the quiet places does my word soak deep. And only those who dare enter the wilderness will emerge like fire no one can quench. Do not fear loneliness. Do not fear walking alone, for I am there, with you, preparing you to be the voice for your generation. My child, you do not know how many are waiting for a word from your lips, a word spoken in due season, a look filled with compassion, an embrace that carries healing. You do not know how many stand on the edge, just waiting for a sign from heaven. And I desire to use you, not because you are good enough, but because I want to prove that grace is sufficient to use anyone who is willing to obey. Do not underestimate what I can do through a soul that has been made clean. What I did through John, I can do again through you. But remember, you are not the light. You are the one who points to the light. Not the center, but the forerunner, not the destination, but the finger pointing to the one who comes after. When you live like that, when you step back, so I may step forward, then heaven rejoices, and my power will move. Do not strive to impress. Live to prepare. Do not fear losing your position. Desire that I may have a place in the hearts of men. Therefore, cry out. Even if no one seems to hear, live differently. Even if they mock you, clear the path. Even when the world remains in a fog, for one day, the one for whom you are preparing will come, not as many expect, not in outward spectacle, but in the trembling of the human heart. And those who have listened, who have prepared their hearts, who have heeded the voice in the wilderness, they will recognize me when I arrive. My child, across the earth, the shakings continue. Systems once thought untouchable are cracking. Thrones in which people place their trust are faltering. The stability the world clings to is more fragile than ever before. But amid the storm, there is a remnant, not many. Not loud, not self-promoting, who still stand firm. They are the ones who remain, not because they are immune to hardship, but because they do not fall beneath it. Not because they are stronger, but because they cling more tightly to me. The remnant is not known for their fame, but for their depth. They do not seek prominence. But endurance. They do not follow the crowd. Yet they remain standing, even when all others turn away. They are those who, though once broken, refuse to let brokenness define them. Though they have wept in the night, they still choose to believe. Though they have been wounded by those who wore spiritual garments, they have not abandoned me. They are living evidence of a faith not built on sand. They are a flame small, perhaps, but one that never goes out. I have always preserved a portion of my people in every generation. When a nation collapsed into idolatry, I reserved 7,000 who had never bowed to Baal. When the earth was cloaked in darkness, there was always a Joseph quietly preserving the seed, a Daniel who stood in the palace yet remained untouched, an Esther who dared to stand for her people, even at the cost of her life. And in these final days, I have not changed. I am still kindling the fire, still awakening hearts, still setting apart a people for myself, not because they are worthy, but because I have chosen them and will keep them steadfast. My child, if you feel isolated, misunderstood, or dismissed because you do not walk with the crowd, know this: you are not alone. You are among the ranks of the remnant. You do not need the applause of men. You only need my approval. And in the midst of darkness, ones like you will be used as torches. You will not need to shout. For your very existence, a soul that has not compromised already makes a spiritual declaration. The enemy knows who you are. Heaven knows who you are. And one day, the world will know too. The glory of the King will not be revealed through systems built by human hands. It will not descend through billboards, media strategies, or man-made campaigns. It will pour forth through earthen vessels softened, once broken, refined by fire, yet still holding purity within. It is through such seemingly ordinary lives that light will break forth. Then the hidden things will be unveiled. That which was forgotten will be lifted up, and those who have endured will receive their reward in the open. The remnant does not seek revenge. They do not live to prove they were right. They live to see me glorified. They pray not to elevate themselves, but to humble their hearts. They do not seek comfort, they seek presence. And for that reason, they are being prepared to receive the coming outpouring. They are the field already plowed, the seed long buried beneath the soil of a prolonged winter. But a spiritual spring is approaching. What was once buried will rise. Dreams thought to be dead will sprout again, and the king will come not down a red-carpeted road, but upon a path paved with tears, repentance, and steadfast faith. Do you see it? Even in the hidden corners of the world, I am lighting lamps. In Africa, in Asia, among forgotten villages, in prisons where no one expects salvation, in the silent hospital rooms where a soul at the end of life whispers, "My name," on rooftops where mothers pray through the night, in bedrooms where a child quietly sings a hymn. This is where my glory is beginning to rise, not loud, but unstoppable, not showy, but unshakable. The remnant was not born to merely survive, but to overcome, not by seizing power, but by standing firm, not to build personal empires, but to bring glory to the one who redeemed them. They are marked by humility, yet carry a power beyond measure. They know when to be silent and when to speak. They do not act out of pressure, but from a divine prompting. They are warriors who wear no glittering armor, for my presence is their armor. And I say to you, if you find yourself among them, those who relentlessly pursue me, who choose obedience, even when it costs them, then rejoice. For the coming of the King is near, and you will not merely witness my arrival, but you shall partner with me in this final season. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. You are not lost. You are walking the right path, and every tear you have shed, every hidden prayer, every time you chose the hard zodiac of them is being gathered like incense in golden bowls in heaven, ready to be poured out as a rain of glory. My child, this is the hour when lamps must be examined. Not everyone who carries a lamp will be allowed in. Not everyone who waits will see the door opened. In the parable of the 10 virgins, there was a clear separation, not based on appearance, nor years of service, but on the amount of oil in their vessels. That oil cannot be borrowed. It cannot be shared at the last minute. It is the fruit of personal intimacy, of faithfulness in the unseen, of tending the flame daily, even when the King has not yet appeared. Do you have oil? The oil of quiet prayer, the oil of steadfastness when no one is watching, the oil of forgiveness in the face of hurt, the oil of trust when there is nothing left to hold on to. Oil does not come from knowing much or hearing often, but from walking with me hour by hour, moment by moment. Many have lamps, but they do not shine. They once burned with fire, but failed to replenish the oil. They once loved me, but indifference and busyness have chilled their hearts. And when the cry rings out, "Here comes the bridegroom," they will not have enough light to find the way. My beloved, I do not want you left in the dark. I do not want you scrambling for oil in the final hour. That is why I am awakening you now. While others are lulled to sleep by a false sense of safety, I whisper to your spirit, be prepared, not so that you live in fear, but so that you live awakened. Tend your lamp. Let the fire not go out. Quietly pour in the oil each day, even if no one sees, even if there is no applause. For the trumpet will sound one day, and only those who are ready will enter the wedding feast of the Lamb. And this too, my child, not only must your lamp be full of oil, but your garment must be clean. In the book of Revelation, I emphasize the robeth white garment, without stain, unsoiled by the world. That robe is not self-made, but given when you choose to put on the righteousness that comes from me, when you live not for your own glory, but to exalt the name of the Father, those who keep themselves undefiled by the world's systems, who do not blend truth with lies, who do not compromise with darkness. These are the ones who keep their garments white. Do not let your robe be stained by bitterness. Do not let it be marred by pride. Do not let the world embroider it with things that are beautiful but false, dazzling but hollow. Earthly honors may look like white silk, but are often just dirt in disguise. Certain relationships may appear as advancement, but in truth, they pull you further from the light. I speak to you now. Guard your robe, not by striving, but by staying close to me, for my presence is the living water that always cleanses. Befriend my word, so it may wash your heart daily. Let holiness not be a foreign concept, but the very breath you breathe each morning. There are those who think they still have plenty of time, that they can live as they please, and eventually turn back when the moment feels right. But my child, time is no longer abundant. Every sign is shouting that the season has arrived. The door is about to close. The banquet is about to begin, and only those whose lamps are filled with oil, whose garments are spotless, whose loyalty remains unwavering only, they will be brought in. Only they will behold the King, not in a dream, but in glory, not through speculation, but face to face with the one they have loved without ever seeing. That day will not come with a clamor, but with a trumpet sound, a sound that only the ready will recognize. It will not resound in the marketplace, but within the hearts of those who have learned to discern the voice of the shepherd. They will not be terrified, for they have waited. They will not be overwhelmed, for they have prepared. They will not turn back to get ready, for they have lived in a posture of readiness every single day. And then they will be taken up not because of their merit, but because of their unchanging love for the King. This is no myth. Dear one, this is a reality drawing nearer with each passing moment. What you see is temporary, but the kingdom I am about to establish is eternal. The thrones of men will crumble. The names that once shook the earth will be forgotten, but the names written in the book of life will be declared among the heavenly congregation, and you will be there if your lamp is burning, your robe is clean, and your heart remains steadfast. So continue on. Keep pouring oil. Keep washing your garments. Keep guarding your heart. Do not let these days slip by in vain. Do not let the whispers of the Holy Spirit be drowned out by the noise of the world. Make room for the King in your life, not just a part, but the whole. For the one who is coming is not looking for the most gifted, but for those with undivided hearts. And when I come, my eyes will scan the multitude to find those who have truly loved me. When that moment comes, the heavens will no longer stay silent. A thunderous sound not of destruction, but of proclamation will pierce through the skies. The trumpet of the angel will be blown, and those who have fallen asleep in the Lord will rise first. Then, those who are alive and remaining in faith will be transformed in the blink of an eye. Eye will meet eye. Heart will recognize heart. Humanity will no longer be separated by flesh, by time, by limitation. That will be the day when all tears cease, all sighing ends, all waiting concludes, and it will mark the beginning of a glory that words cannot contain. The wedding of the Lamb will be unlike any celebration the world has ever seen. There will be no grand wedding gowns, but radiant souls washed in the blood of the Lamb. There will be no earthly melodies, but the eternal song of countless angels, singing a hymn that only the redeemed can sing. And at the center of that wedding, it will not be the bride who shines, but the King, not the glorious bride, but the one who died for love, who chose suffering over splendor, who traded his golden crown for a crown of thorns just so he could call you his own. Oh, my child, where will you be on that day? Will you be the one lifting your face with joy, for the wait has ended? Or will you be the one bowing your head in regret, for the moment was missed when the heavens open? There will be no second chances. When my gaze sweeps across the nations, I will not look for the most visible, but for the most faithful, not for those who merely began, but for those who finished the race in faith, not for the loudest voices, but for the quiet hearts that obeyed. On that day, everything that once frightened you will lose all meaning. Fame, position, wealth, arguments, worldly glory, they will all fall away like dry leaves before the breath of heaven's power. But glory belongs to those who have kept the flame burning, not the fleeting blaze of emotion, but the steadfast fire of true love. Do you know this? My child, even the smallest acts you once did in my name, a silent intercession, a moment of resisting temptation, a decision to forgive while still bleeding, all of these will be proclaimed before the angels. Everything unseen by human eyes will be honored. Every sacrifice you thought was in vain will become a crown upon your head. You will not only be an invited guest, but the chosen bride, the one sealed with unconditional love. But before that day comes, the battle will grow more intense. False voices will multiply. Many will appear, claiming to be light. The systems of this world will use every tool to cool down faith, and only those who truly know the one they follow will not be deceived. I tell you now, hold tighter to truth than ever before. Keep your heart purer than ever before. Live as if today were your last. And love me as though tomorrow you would see my face, for that day is approaching faster than you think, and I want you to be ready. On that day, there will be no distinction between denominations, nations, or social status. There will be only one question: do you belong to me? Not by what others say, not through religious routine, but through the reality within your heart that I am your only King, your deepest love, and the purpose of your entire life. Those who belong to me will recognize my voice, will run toward me, will be taken up, and will be with me forever. No more death, no more pain, no more being forgotten, for in that place I will wipe every tear from your eyes, and you will never again search for love, for love himself will have found you. Oh, my child, in that moment, everything will become clear. Why I made you wait, why you had to walk through the shadows, why you so often felt alone, misunderstood, forgotten. It was because I was preparing you for a glory beyond your wildest dreams. I never intended for you to be a mere passerby in the eternal wedding feast. I want you seated at the table with honor, with intimacy as one who was chosen, cherished, and kept whole. Do you realize this? When you chose to forgive, heaven took note. When you said no to sin, I smiled. When you decided to believe, even when everything told you to quit, I added another gem to your crown. Every time you chose me instead of yourself, you lost nothing. You were storing up glory that will one day shine so brightly that even the angels will bow their heads. And in that moment, when you step into eternal light, every pain will vanish. Every question will be answered. Every empty place in your heart will be made whole. So hold your heart firm. Live fully. Keep going even when weary. Pray even when you see nothing. Love even when it is not returned. Go when I say go. Stop when I say stop. For on the day I return, I will not be looking for your accomplishments. I will be looking for who you have become. Were you faithful? Were you the bride with oil in her lamp, her garments pure, and her heart unblemished? Were you the one who could say, Lord, I have kept what you entrusted to me until the end, because in the end, everything will come down to one single truth. Who are you on the day I return? Thank you for receiving today's message. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so we can continue receiving the words of life, building unshakable faith, and walking together in the boundless love of the Lord. Amen.